The Ready, Set, Grow podcast is sponsored by Ag Expert, software designed for Canadian agriculture. Visit them today at agexpert.ca.
Welcome to the Ready, Set, Grow podcast, where we like to showcase startup and early stage companies, as well as visit with innovators in the agriculture and food industry. Today, we're here with Joe Dales, co-founder at RH Accelerator, and Andrew Campbell, farmer, founder of Fresh Air Media, and partner at Utensil. Andrew, thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, it's great to be here, Mike. Thanks for the invitation to both you and Joe. Certainly, for us, we're here in Southern Ontario, west of the city of London, where we kind of, job one is the farm. So we milk cows here, grow corn, soybeans, wheat, hay, very typical Ontario mixed farm. Is kind of what we are here in Middlesex County. And then beyond that, my wife and I kind of dabble in a few other, some days we call them hobbies. Some days they're the full-time job, but, we work with, companies and clients, within the, rural Canadian, especially within agriculture space, on a whole bunch of communication and marketing and project development, projects throughout, kind of sitting in a very unique space where we're that support for a lot of those teams that are looking for some farmer input. And that's kind of where we sit. So between our Fresh Air Media world, our Utensil world you mentioned that fits in that space as well, that we do with Law 32, and then the farm, we have lots of excitement going on around here.
That's great. Well, we follow you closely on social media and so on. I just want to let people know that's Joshua, our intern at Farm Credit Canada. So Joshua, we're going to introduce you in the next podcast, just so people see he's shadowing us today on his first podcast. Andrew, tell us a little bit about the farm and the history and so on, because I love that story, and then maybe tell us about your excellent new project that you've been working on. We've been following on social media.
Yeah, sure. So for us, I've got lots of family members who are quite interested in genealogy. They look back generations and centuries back, and it is farm all the way back to Scotland, before we were chased out, I think. So that is basically, kind of where we have been. Grandpa was the one that actually got into milking cows here where we are right now. His dad had sheep, and he didn't like sheep. He liked cows better. So he switched from sheep to milking cows. Over that, then, my mom and dad took over. And then since that, my wife, Jess, and I, we've taken over with our kids, despite the fact that mom and dad and even grandpa are still quite involved. And that kind of has been the key for a long time. We are growing the grain business now. It was always there as a way to feed the cows, but now we're growing that, particularly with my one of my brothers and his wife, kind of adding acres over the last couple of years. But as you mentioned, the big project has actually been, the move for us from kind of the traditional tie stall barn, which has been the barn that's been milked in for, since the 60s when my grandpa started, all the way to, 3 weeks ago, we moved into a new, robot freestall barn that, is much more up to date with much more technology, than we've had in the past. It's been a goal of ours for, quite a few years. It's like everything, you kind of wait for things to both line up, and for, your comfort level in the technology, and for a whole host of things. That opportunity came to us, last year, maybe 18 months ago. And, now we're in, and we're excited about, the way the farm's going.
Yeah, we've loved watching the progress on your YouTube channel. You've done a great job sort of taking us through from first breaking the ground to getting the first cows into the barn. And it's been a really interesting journey to watch. Can you take us through some of the robotics and technology that you're using in the barn?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So we, the key component of it is the melting robots. So we put in Lely A5s, two of them. Is kind of the way we've chosen. As you mentioned, we were kind of sharing that journey along the way on the YouTube channel. Just as part of it was, we me in particular, I really like learning from other people, seeing, where their success has been, where they would, what they would change. I remember years ago, somebody saying to me that if you ever ask anybody, what they'd change about their barn and they said nothing, they're lying to you, because everybody finds something that they would change, after they're in it for a little while. And so, as we were learning through that process, I hoped it might be helpful for other people to kind of learn along with us, from our tours to the construction to all of that. And so, based on, that process, that's kind of where we ended up, is two, Lely A5s. We've got the feed pusher that, of course, replaces a simple broom. But the nice thing about it is it does it all day and all night. It doesn't need somebody in there to run that broom. Automatic scrapers, the whole ventilation and lighting system is all run off sensors and, a whole bunch of things to be able to moderate the climate in here, to make sure there's enough light without, just wasting that energy. All of those things kind of combine into, which still blows me away. A barn that I can monitor, manage several components of, and even deal with several issues right from my phone, no matter where I am in the world, which, blows me away. It obviously doesn't change the fact that if, you still got to walk a cow to the robot every once in a while, or kick her out if she's just standing there chewing her cud in the way. But a lot of things, it really is amazing what you can do nowadays. And then obviously the data that comes with that.
Andrew, social media, you're one of the leaders in this whole area for agriculture, social media, both for, sharing your stories and educating consumers. For our crowd, a lot of young entrepreneurs. Can you talk a little bit about some of your successes? What actual tools you use the most, that you see the most benefit in kind of that ag and ag tech space?
Yeah, certainly. So, one of the things when it comes to, social media is, the recognition that it really is, just an extension of any other marketing you do. Is one of the big things. And I think that for a lot of folks, I don't necessarily think it fits in the space as just an extension of you networking. I think it's an extension of the marketing. And therefore, I don't think anybody goes out and buys, ads in the paper, ads on TV, ads on the radio without at least having a little bit of a plan. And social media kind of fits that too, where I think you need to at least have an idea. What do you want to achieve? Who do you want to talk to? Do, things like that. And that's something that, we've tried to do over the years. And then, tied with that is, honestly, just trying things. The nice thing about social media is it has, I should say, the nice plus the downside to it is it's got a very short shelf life. You post something today and nobody really pays attention to it. Well, the good news is nobody definitely is going to pay attention to it in the next 3 hours from now. Like, it is up and gone. And so, we use that to our advantage, and have in the past to, just put stuff up. And some of the projects that we've done, we did kind of the photo a day thing on Twitter a few years ago. We toured different farms all across Canada for YouTube a couple of years after that. Since then it's been, following along with the barn project. All of these, have kind of tied into different ideas we've had. Not all the same audience, not all the same time frame, but does this work? Does it not work? What works about it? And the nice thing about that is, if something isn't working, then you change on the fly. And I think that's the other thing that helps a lot with it, is being able to be flexible with that type of stuff. And then, recognizing, I fit in the same boat, and especially since we've moved in to the new barn, like I have been atrocious at posting stuff over the last 6 weeks, because we've been flat out. We cannot find the time to do that. Who cares? Start again next week. That's our plan. Start up again, do it again, come back to life, and away you go. So I think a lot of that fits into, kind of how we see and use it.
So looking at your sort of unique experience being a farmer working in agribusiness, do you have any advice for any young entrepreneurs or who are looking to get started in agriculture?
Well, first of all, I think agriculture is, I have a great passion for the industry. So my first thing is like, yeah, agriculture is a perfect choice. Do that. Because it is an industry that I think, when you talk about job security, feeding people fits as a pretty secure job. They need it more than, pretty much anything else. So just to be in that space, I think is worthwhile. Then when you look at, where the opportunities are, and where the whole industry is moving, I'm really excited for the future, because certainly I think agriculture has, for a lot of years led the way in a lot of things. When we think about, using GPS to more of its potential within auto steer, I mean, there were a lot of tractors that had it before every car had it, things like that. But in the same breath, I think we have not been as good with managing data, using it to find all the efficiencies we can. I think there's a lot of ways to improve that, and a lot of ways to improve how a farmer or how people within the industry use that easily to make decisions. And so I think when I look at where the future is, I think we've got so much great potential for that improvement, that we're going to need people like you listening to be able to come up with those ideas to work through that technology. I think farmers have proven they are quite happy to adopt the technology when it's there. We just need, some of those opportunities to be presented to us in terms of how they can, provide a return on investment for it.
Yeah, well said. I think it's exciting too. We're very bullish on all the great innovations coming to agriculture, and with the state of the world, food is top of mind again, and everything's interdependent with climate and energy and so on. So I think we're really well positioned for an exciting run here. So yeah, we're keen to encourage young folks to look at our sector, even if they're not traditionally from a farming. We need that talent coming in from everywhere, really. You're involved with Growing Our People Summit. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. So, there's a group of wonderful people who are putting together, who had this kind of brain wave of how can we bring people together, in the industry, particularly after the last couple of years that we've had. And, their idea was this Grow Your People Summit, November 2nd to 4th in Niagara Falls. And the whole concept of it, for a lot of things, is that there's a lot of organizations that have their own meetings that maybe go to different parts of the country, and some of those are small, some of them are larger. But what if we pulled some of those organizations together, did it kind of in the same time frame, the same area, the same setting, and then on top of that offered some really great speakers and training ideas and workshops meant to grow your team, grow your team's skills. And so when you look at some of the things on the agenda in terms of the management stuff, the communication stuff is the one that Sherilyn Nagel and I are working together on putting together. There's a lot, I think, of opportunity to say, okay, these great organizations can come in, do their own stuff, then have some opportunity for some training on their own team, have that camaraderie that comes along with getting together with everybody in the industry, and go home feeling, like they've really, done something good. And so that's the concept. Registration is now open. If you just Google Grow Your People Summit Niagara Falls, it'll pop right up. And I'm really excited for the opportunity, because as you mentioned, Joe, too, I think it also fits with those folks who are coming into the industry. Maybe they're, new folks like Joshua who are just, brand new young people coming in. Maybe they, are coming into the industry for the first time and haven't had that experience. What a great opportunity to, learn from each other, learn what the industry is about, and build up those skills.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good event. So one thing that we've seen is agriculture has it's done well over the last few years when other industries have struggled, but we have noticed there's lots of new technologies and trends coming out. Are there any that you're following right now?
Well, I think one of the big ones that I think, I'm really interested in, obviously there's that, continued development on the hardware space. When you talk about what the potential is with robotics, what the potential is to just, we are going to continue, and I think it will only, get worse, is that, finding the right labor in order to be able to do, especially the hard jobs, the backbreaking work, all of that type of stuff. I think to be able to, use robotic technology, milking is a perfect example of that. As we put these in, this allows us to, do more on the management side and less on the physical labor side, that job that, still has to be done. So I think to be able to see that hardware side develop, is pretty exciting, and where else it can fit. I think we're going to see just more and more of that on the crop side and things like that. But going back to my last thing, I think one of the things that I'm really interested to see kind of long term is, how do we start pulling all of this stuff together? When I look at, I've got one program that does my accounting, I've got another program that, is now managing the robots, another program that's managing the barn. I've got another program that runs the, crop side, another program that runs the GPS side. Sometimes they talk together. Most of the time I'm inputting data back and forth. Like, what a pain. My goodness, am I excited to see what the opportunity is when all of this whole farm approach, starts coming in to say that, yeah, we can build efficiencies in terms of, what I'm growing on the land for grain, how I can maybe use some of that as green feed for cows sometimes. What's the budget like? Okay, now I'm going to put less feed up, buy more in, because here's where the numbers match up. Like all that type of stuff. I think there's a lot of opportunity to build the efficiencies. And I do think it's coming sooner than later, because you're right, Mike, that things have been really good, I think, for a lot of farms, particularly on the grain side. But I think we're starting to see the end of that train coming, and costs are not going to come down like commodity prices are. So all of a sudden, we're dealing with much bigger dollars to put an acre of crop in. So the risk is that much higher. I think to be able to have some of these tools to fine tune that pencil, I think are going to come in really handy and be very worthwhile as we see what is probably going to be a very interesting couple of years, on the financial side.
Yeah, good points. It just struck me too, Andrew, in a couple of your comments. Could you provide some advice to, let's just say they're tech entrepreneurs, ag tech entrepreneurs. How does a farmer like yourself, make a purchase decision? What's important, what's not, and give a little bit of advice to some of these entrepreneurs that are starting to call on farmers now.
Yeah, so I would say, and I'm going to use our farm as an example. Every farm is very different. It is one of those things that the joke is always, if you get 10 farmers in a room, you're going to have 11 opinions. That's the reality. Everybody runs things differently. But for us, and I think, certainly more for our generation, is we really do take more and more of that team approach to our farm. I cannot keep up on all technology on the dairy, all nutrition information, all agronomy information, all chem information, all everything information. It moves way too fast. And frankly, I have interest in a few areas, less interested, although still important, in other areas. So we very much take this team approach, that we bring in those trusted folks around us, whether it's on the nutrition side, whether it's on the agronomy side, whether it's on the grain marketing side, the accounting side, all of these around. We pull those opinions together. I ask them for their ideas. I take their ideas incredibly seriously. If you look back to previous generations, I think their mentality, well, they're the salesman. They're always going to tell you to buy it. Whereas mine is, well, they might be selling it to me, but my hope is that their interest is actually in our success, so that we can have that long-term relationship. And that's just the way we run it. And then frankly, if you do move into a salesperson mode more than a looking after us mode, there is a lot of competition out there, and I will happily move my business very quickly. So you've got to have that trust to it. And to me, the term I actually always use to a lot of clients is trust over loyalty. Loyalty is not necessarily as important as it might have been to my dad or my grandpa. Trust is absolutely critical to me. And so as long as I trust you, I will be loyal, but I will not be loyal if I don't trust you. So.
Yeah, those are some good points, and thanks for sharing that information. I think we probably sit here and chat for a few hours, but before we head out, is there anything else you would like our viewers to know about?
Well, I think I'd go back to a couple of our other comments just about how exciting it is to be in agriculture. You mentioned that things have been pretty strong within the industry over the last little while. My guess is that we're in for a rocky few years, but I don't think that takes away from the excitement, from the importance of this industry. I think it just changes what our needs as farmers and what folks in the industry are going to need in technology, in relationships, in working with the folks that we do deal with, and how those purchasing decisions are going to be made in a couple of years. This is the reality of agriculture that has always existed, is the pendulum just swings back and forth. And when it's one way, these are the opportunities and these are the things that we as an industry need. And then it just flips. It doesn't mean we don't need anything. It means we need different things. And that's where we're switching. And I think for those that are entrepreneurial and ready to tackle that, I think there's still going to be plenty of opportunities. So I hope you're always as excited to be in this industry as I am, as I know all of us are.
Yeah, I think the challenge comes with the opportunity, right?
Always does.
Yeah. No, well put, Andrew, and we appreciate your feedback. How can people follow you? Watch your YouTube videos, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I've tried to make it easy in that it's the same handle everywhere. It's Fresh Air Farmer, all one word. So as I said, the last few weeks maybe haven't been, the most exciting and thrilling to follow along, because we've been so, tied down here. But, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, those are kind of where we like to share, where we like to experiment, where we like to just, kind of talk about what we're doing. So anybody can find me on those, and, are always welcome to reach out with any, ideas, thoughts, questions. We're always happy to, help and support, particularly new people to the industry whenever we can.
Yeah, I highly suggest chatting with Andrew if you do have any questions. He does have a very wide amount of knowledge in the industry, and can really help you there. But I just want to thank our listeners for tuning in to the Ready, Set, Grow podcast. And I want to thank you again, Andrew, for joining us.
Well, it's great to see you, Mike. It's great to see you, Joe, and it's great to meet you, Joshua. Thanks, guys.